There is procedure.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the 70th session of Majlis Al Khonji via Zoom. More than a year passed since the COVID-19 pandemic started and a lot has changed. This is our topic for this session today. Please allow me to introduce our guest, Mr. Michael Hansen, the CEO of Al Khonji Group, who will take us through the corporate experience, his thought and business continuity plan, the key issues and areas of improvement, and the opportunities. Mr. Mike, welcome to Majlis Al Khonji again, and over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rehan. I'll just put up the presentation, please. Okay. Right, can you see that? So, Assalamu alaikum, and may I say Ramadan Kareem for the start next week of the holy month of Ramadan. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and to you who are joining us from outside of Oman. I see one visitor from Bahrain and one from Egypt. Welcome. And also one from France. So when Mr. Khalil asked me to come back to this subject, actually 1 year on, I've viewed it as a very important opportunity. So I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Khalil, for inviting me to speak on this subject that started with the pandemic. And honestly, a year ago, it was with difficulty that we could assess or understand the impact that the pandemic was likely to have on our lives. So our approach today is to build upon the case study of the first virtual Al Khonji Majlis, which was in April the 11th. And in that presentation, it was quite interesting going back to it, because I looked at what we thought may start to occur as we try to continue to do our business. And interestingly, many of our thoughts have occurred. So this presentation builds upon that presentation. So you will recall that the catalyst for dramatic change, this was the first slide of my presentation 1 year ago, was COVID-19. It was the hit. Just a little bit of history. You'll remember that we first heard about it in Wuhan, in China. And then we heard about high mortality rates in Italy. And then the virus spread. The UK, Europe, the USA, and of course, we were not immune here in the GCC. It disturbed us. You'll remember the very volatile movements on the bourses around the world. And this was following a period of low oil prices. We hardly think about oil prices at the moment because they've been high, reasonably, plus 55, 60, even slightly higher. But 1 year ago, our business horizons were obscured. It was difficult to look forward even 6 months. And for how long that we were likely to be impacted was, again, unclear. So moving to this presentation. (2020), a pandemic year. At first, it seemed like it would last only a short while. And then it's just become the way things are. A year ago, we just couldn't imagine how calculating risk every day would become reflexive. Masks, social distancing to keep us safe, but faceless and apart. Each room a backdrop for a video call. Frighteningly, each in-person meeting an opportunity for the virus. School classes were cancelled, so were sporting events, religious services, traveling. People who could work from home did. The past 12 months has seen 118 million cases around the globe, across the globe. Sadly, 206 million deaths. But we as a people, as humans, some successes. Coronavirus was intensely researched. The genome published. Many people participated in research, and a vaccine, several vaccines have been developed in less than 1 year. 319 million vaccine doses have been administered. It's important to say this because we're in a battle. The virus keeps mutating. There are more virulent strains. The South African, we've heard, the Brazilian, the UK. More are likely to come. It's really important to remember this as I go through this presentation. And what wave are we in? You hear in some countries, the second wave, the third wave. I'm not able to tell you where we are here in Oman. I'm not sure how to measure that. But certainly from the lockdowns we have, from the behaviors we're seeing, the guidance we receive, it's possible we're in the second or third wave. So I'm going to reflect using myself as an active CEO of a wonderful group, the Al Khonji group. And we cover many sectors. So I'm able to receive inputs from my team operating in different sectors. We're involved in education, as you know. We're very proud of our relationship with Muscat University. And we're very proud of our relationship with a Bahraini group through Gulf Markets International. And at this time of year, as we approach Ramadan, it's never been more important to care and be kind and help others. So, thanks to Majlis Al Khonji, across this 1 year, we have certainly had the opportunity for knowledge and awareness to think about impacts today, but also to think about opportunities for the future. I really want to just raise the profile of how lucky we are in Oman with people like Professor Dar and his huge experience in health and his ability to communicate and convey so well the different types of vaccines, how COVID-19 has been impacting. And we've also had Dr. Abhay, who was talking about healthcare. But health has been one aspect. The second, and relevant to me as a CEO, has been the economy. And 6 months as a horizon is not long enough strategically for a business person, for a country indeed. So again, listening to Dr. Jamo, Dr. Abdullah Al-Barani, Tim, and his thoughts of economies, other economies, and what they're doing to try to prosper. and Ian talking about regulations and conditions that have helped some economies prosper. We've had plenty to think about. And I started with this knowledge and awareness because in Oman, we really can help ourselves in a proactive, in a positive way, and we are more fortunate than many, many other communities because of our knowledge base and our resource. But we're also pretty fortunate in our government and regulatory bodies. Again, in the last year, we've had a seamless transition, a new sultan, some new leadership in government. And I have to commend, if I may, the active leadership coming from the Ministry of Health. If I think of the last 12 months, what's rhyming for me is health, and economy. And these are the two themes as I talk through this presentation. Top of the list has been health. We have to be fit. We have to be able to carry on as much our normal behaviors. And His Excellency, Dr. Ahmed Al-Saidi and his team have been tracking. It's clear from the information we get from the newspapers, the conversations we have, clearly tracking coronavirus and introducing here as policymakers with the respective authorities, time for lockdown, educating the importance of social distancing, the importance of wearing masks, the importance of testing and tracing, and the importance of vaccination. But still, COVID positive cases are being reported here, and it seems to increase, and then the effect of lockdown seems to work, and then it increases again because of some other issue. We're not isolated from the world, and we've been very, very fortunate and can build upon the Ministry of Health, the security apparatus, the military. So we have the apparatus and resources here in Oman that are able to help collaborate and cooperate. But importantly, our story this last year has not just been health. It's vital that the economy continues. And for me, I've seen coexistence and continuation. This is a really important platform. And I'm seeing particularly from commerce and industry and investment promotion, and very, very importantly, Ministry of Labour, that everyone is behind this Vision 2040. So we have a direction to work in. We've seen active work to try to set ourselves and be a destination of choice for foreign investment. We've seen ourselves try to be open to attract visitors, and importantly, recognizing the talent we have here in Oman, and that it's vital that it gets absorbed into valuable jobs in this economy. So when I was thinking about this presentation, I've got knowledge coming in, I've got proactive actions coming from the government on health, in looking after us, and in the economy. So my situational analysis of the changing landscape was as follows. My observations first, that getting people vaccinated is taking too long. And we have to recognize that physical distancing is prescribed, and it means Some people will be in isolation, and travel is not the option that it used to be. Wearing masks are vital. Having hand sanitizers, temperatures taken are the new norm in life. Video calls like today, with some of us who barely knew how to use a smartphone 1 year ago, is now a normal method of communication. Look how I'm struggling with trying to annotate with a pen. But these are new skills that we have to learn. Interestingly, our experts, Professor Dar, can expand and elaborate so much more, but trying to decide when and whether to shut borders, impose lockdowns, enforce social distancing. It's pretty hard because of the impact on the economy and on people. Policymakers used to talk of V-shaped recoveries. It didn't happen. Then they talked about U-shaped recoveries, and it hasn't happened. Never, ever faced this sort of emergency. So for me as a CEO, pretty clear, vaccinations are going to be required. Lockdowns are necessary. You know the protocol. If you're team for 10 days, 14 days, you go back to the Ministry of Health, and if they examine you and say you can come back to work, so be it. This message has got to get through to our population. Lockdowns must be strict. This virus is so virulent. The population, all of us, have to follow appropriate social behavior. No problem with standing up out of respect for someone who walks into a room, but shaking hands, no. Embracing, no. Even if you travel to your village at the weekend to see your family, embracing people, shaking hands, no. You could be carrying the virus. And it's really important to stress this point. Disease control requires cooperation. And here in Oman, we are pretty fortunate. We have an active Ministry of Health. We've got a very well trained Royal Oman Police. We have people like Professor Dar and other people who can give inputs on how we behave, what we should be doing. We have people tracking what's happening in other countries. This disease does not care about emotions. So in my team, and right down to basics, the impact, I have to start with a very big thank you to people like Reham, to people like Hamdan, people like Ibrahim Al-Amri. These are colleagues of mine. These are people that have had to work to enable us to keep working. Some people could just go home. Actually, what I've seen is positive attitudes. When I look at moments of truth of how people are working, people with the right communication and repeating and giving examples, people get it. People understand we have to keep the business working. People understand if the business stops, and this is the same for an economy, if it stops or if it doesn't perform well, we are all at risk. And people have been pretty good. We're hearing this word blended a lot, blended education. Actually, in business, it's also blended in terms of communication. Sometimes face to face, but at a distance and with a mask. Online, like now. Broadcasts, so having a pre-recorded message and sending this out to try to get the team to work together. We are better as a team. We are better as a community than as one person. As one person, as me, as CEO, I can achieve not much. But with people like Mr. Hamdan, Mr. Ibrahim, Madame Reham, Madame Nadra, Omanis, by the way, with one Sudanese, we are able to continue. But very interesting point, specific roles, and I only do this and nothing else, are history. People have got to be more adaptable, more aware, and if a colleague has become sick, plan B, plan C to continue. We have to use technology. And telecom, Omantel, Ooredoo, you should be buying their shares. You have to use them. So what does it mean? In our team, there's pretty much different types of workers now. Essential workers and WFH, workers from home or remote. WhatsApp, its big moment. Without WhatsApp, we would be struggling. Zoom, you can get fed up with Zoom, one meeting after another. And we have to find new ways to keep engaged, whether it's a different backdrop, whether it's a different situation. If you'll remember, Mr. Khalil was on Zoom from Ras Al Han. It gave a different feel. We've had Mr. Maqbool Al Salah in his car coming from Niswa. Suddenly, we're able to work differently. But don't underestimate this loss of face. If we're not together, what I'm noticing in my team, that new idea generation is seriously hampered if you're not close to someone. I'm not able to communicate as well to my colleagues, to my board, to my executive committee online. I can't have that emotional connection. Also new people. We had a great young Omani join some months ago, Mr. Mubarak. My heart goes to him. Joining a new team, having to speak to us via Zoom. It's not the same as coming into the office and sitting and listening and being trained. But, you know, young people are quite resilient. Young Omanis are excellent with their digital skills. And somehow we've managed to work very well. For someone like me who has an accounting background, I'm delighted to see operating costs coming down. We don't need the huge office we used to have. We can switch lights off. But our office looks different. So now you come into work and you won't sit next to someone else as closely as you did. There will be alternate seats. There will be desk spacing. And for me, coming to work, I used to come to work and be in the office by about 7:40 in the morning. Thank you to coronavirus, but the congestion going to PDO means I'm in the office now at 7:30. There's no traffic jam. But what it means is those people that have been working from home or working remotely, actually that travel time, that commuting time to work can be used for more productivity. And I was interested in a study as I was researching for this presentation, but for many people, the working day has become a little bit longer. They're using the commuting time. Also, the working day has changed. Maybe they'll work during the lunch break. Some people will work at night. Others will work at the weekend. So the understanding of time, the understanding of routines have changed a lot. For my team, just a snapshot of the last 1 year. We were really concerned in the February, March, April time. And actually actions were tactically driven. It was about protecting team as we tried to understand health implications, and absolutely protecting revenues. And it was basic. It was reduce costs, restrict cash outflows, but still keeping an openness and awareness for when opportunity might come. After the immediate 4 months, the April to July, we managed to have confidence to develop further into what we call our crisis management team. And this is important for us as a business, but it could be for a country, it could be for a family. But all key members of the business were represented. And the objectives were, how do we continue and how do we embrace this new use of time, this new way of working, whether it's from home or remotely? How do we respond as we listen to our leaders in government and health on decisions about lockdown? How do we close the digital divide? Not all of our team have Wi-Fi at home. Not all of our team have equipment, whether it's an iPad, a laptop, a printer at home. How do we help our colleagues who tested positive? And very, very importantly, how do we show empathy, understanding? You know, look over this video. You can't have the same feeling of care, of concern, than if you're with someone. So for myself, I've tried to be visible. I've tried to be close to my team. I've tried to push them. I've tried to keep them occupied with objectives so that they don't have time to think about other things. I've tried to be decisive. I've tried to be clear. I've tried to be fast in my decisions. And so, for example, on our team, my team are probably fed up with this, but every Sunday and Thursday, 8 o'clock, I do a broadcast on WhatsApp. And I say, good morning. And I list out the objectives for the week. If it's the beginning of the month, it's the objectives for the month. And for some people, the next quarter. For most of the team, it's that week and the following week. And I've broadened the listening point. So it's not just the key leadership team, but it's the second tier. Because I have the assumption some of us, unfortunately, may get sick. and business must continue. And then we follow up with a Zoom session at 9 o'clock so that we're learning how to use this technology. We're seeing each other. We're having confidence that we're working together, that we're a team. You know, it's pretty hard to sit and think about what someone's doing who lives in Sea or Al Amarat, or he says, I'm off to Soha for the day, when you're not in the office. So you have to have confidence, but you need, as humans, we do, I believe, you need to see your team from time to time to say, I'm part of that team. And you need someone, and I guess, well, it's me, I'm the CEO, saying, thank you, well done. And I start with the positives because we're learning and we're forming as a team. But I always need to find some reason or another reason for someone who's not performing or some example so that the team know there's still accountability. And whether it's a serious issue or a small issue or something funny, and I'm not very good at my humor, but I try, but something that gives empathy and bonding, something that keeps us together. This is work, I think it's worked. I asked my colleagues, I think it works for us, but others will have different approaches. I'm sure the leader must be seen, in my case, the white tie, the white shirt, the blue tie, the continuity. Life is carrying on, life is performance driven, life is accountable on our team. There have been key points, but I'd like to just move to my, let's get rid of that, my most important slide, which is this one. So I came up with the word certainty. And I'm sure that I want to put across to us who are participating in this session some points that have emerged for me that I feel certain about for the future in my leadership of our team. I have health right at the top of my certainty. And I feel certain that getting vaccinated is essential, not just to protect me, but to protect others, because it's so virulent and enough science, and there's enough statistics now around the world to tell us that you need to be vaccinated. I'm certain that regular messaging to educate adaptations in cultural behavior to stop transmission are necessary, right? Front and center, regularly, people have to be told. They have to get it. That if you've tested positive, you must remain in isolation for the 10 days. And I have a certainty in our country, Oman, and its opportunity to do business, to attract visitors for tourism. But, you know, I think we're heading to a point in the next 6 months, 9 months latest. If you're not vaccinated, if you don't have a high percentage of vaccination, it's heard that they talk about immunity, people might not visit Oman. And it will impact how we do business and impact our tourist sector. Think about that. Visitors might not visit. And I'm certain our education standards really need to be improved. I am using a template from the consultancy group McKinsey's, which I saw, and used about 2 months ago. And it talks about a new range of skill sets for today and the future. Right at the heart of the skill sets are digital skills. You have to be able to use technology, whether it's a smartphone, a laptop. You have to be able to interpret data. You've got to use machines to produce outputs to enable you to do business. Right at the center are digital skills, and the other 4 skills are leadership skills, people skills, business skills, and technical skills. 5, digital, leadership, people, business, and technical. We'll all have different skills, but you have to find people with the skills that make an effective, high-performing team, and you'll be able to continue to do your business at a better level. But many people will also need retraining. It's not okay to do a job without the ability to use technology anymore. You can see in our own ecosystem here in Oman, but our government agencies, our security agencies are moving swiftly to using technology to obtain permissions, renew documents, etc., etc. Yeah, there is a need for retraining. Wi-Fi, it needs to be a public service. Everyone is using their smartphones. But you know, the greatest certainty I had is that the Omani people, us, including us who have been here some time, are the greatest attraction for Oman. I was talking to some people about, you see Saudi Arabia marketing itself quite a lot, the UAE marketing itself quite a lot. And I said, what about Oman? And it could almost make you cry. The affection that visitors have, that they take away after coming to this country and meeting Omani people. I thought they may talk about the mountains, the desert, the sea, Dhofar. But collectively, people I spoke to, it's Omani people. And I thought, and this may make you laugh, but I thought, but you listen so much, but the problem is Omanization. Actually, there's nothing wrong, and there never has been anything wrong with Omani people. The past 40 years under the Sultan, the late Sultan Qaboos, has just been a magnificent success in the infrastructure and in the young people that we have in this country. And this opportunity under our new Sultan and our new government and the young people we have with their skill sets in language and digital are the greatest attraction for business and for visitors. This country has something from everywhere in the GCC and the wider Indian Ocean. And it's this strategic location, the safe and stable environment, the superb infrastructure, the young people, but it's this platform that I'm certain Oman should be at the moment, with virus and the constraints that it has on travel. But probably for me, our focus is the near market region. The GCC countries, the Indian Ocean Rim countries, our focus. You can't travel easily much further afield. And an old favorite of mine, but right at the top of the list, with the excellent government that we have and the new active leadership, but there are what I call the big six. I have six, other people will have three, others will have 10 issues that need to be looked at, that are mostly regulatory, that will, if aligned, change, will lead to good investment decisions or visitor choices from those that wish to come here to do business or visit. And the conduit must be a very strong chamber, but with the right private sector participation. It's easy to do in Oman, but we seem to not be able to grapple. I have the big six, others, sort them out. The rest is so much easier because we have the people and we have the country. And of course, there's the Oman travel story. Next door in the UAE are 10 million people. If they could get into Oman easily and spend their money at holidays, it's just for us, bank it, because we have the opportunity that they are seeking to enjoy. So it just seems to me that opportunities abound, but we have to see them. And this pandemic can cause us to be locked down. But if you think about it, we have money to spend. The wider investor community is talking quite well about Oman, and its credit ratings have improved. And they're talking about a country that is finding its way. There are ample government expenditures, but how that money is spent is critical. There's plenty of imports coming in. And you know very well, we have in this group, Mr. Salah Shanfri. He's absolutely right. Where are the opportunities for import supply side substitution? We've got expatriates. How do we attract their remittances? How do we attract investors? How do we attract people? They will all bring opportunity. And the lead is the Vision 2040 document. It's excellent. It talks about a diversified, dynamic, globalized economy. It's not that we're mature and can only do some things. We are a young, vibrant economy, and we need to collaborate closely. The near region is obvious, the GCC countries, India, Pakistan. You've got to do more with my country, the UK. There's got to be more with the USA. Holland are important with their ports. China, Korea, Japan. There's so many countries that are friends to this country that we need to move into an environment of celebration of the investors. Word of mouth is the most effective virus. If we have to worry about a disease, let's have our own virus. But it's word of mouth of an economy that is vibrant and young, that can develop in-country value, that is best in class in education and vocational training, that has regional capabilities in logistics, but with sector clusters. We have to encourage automation, digitalization, e-commerce. It's here forever. And you might just think about people like me and encouraging us to stay. I happen to love Oman. And we need to differentiate. Oman, easy to be the capital of sustainable tourism in the Middle East and Indian subcontinent. Easy. It's adventurous. We have the sea. And so, to think about this last year, there is no typical day from the years before in terms of routine. New habits are being ingrained. I don't go out to a restaurant anymore. We eat at home. I don't go to a gym. We go into the mountains, mountain biking. We need to recognize that it's ourselves as individuals that will dictate our outcome, not the government. We need to just be sure it's not just us addressing this pandemic. Every country is, and each will have their own story. But for us here in Oman, we are very fortunate indeed. We have more opportunities than most. So until next year, Mr. Khalil, thank you for allowing me to talk. I hope I've given some flavor of what it's been like to lead my team. I know I have to wear my mask. I know I have to sanitize. I know I have to use WhatsApp and Zoom. But with a team, we can still move forward actively, and there's plenty of opportunity to look for. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike. That was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to open the Q&A session. We'll start with one raised hand, Mr. Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for the really informative presentation. And it is all good, but we'd like to hear more from you about the corporate. You know, we do understand that the business model for the government as a whole need to be changed from oil economy to move to more productive and produce local and try to export. Similar to the company, we do understand that business in Oman is very much linked to the government spending and government purchase and government tenders. And this is, let us agree that will be not the case for the future. So a lot of businesses, particularly big businesses, is going maybe disappear within 5 to 10 years if they remain in the same business model, importing and relying on cheap labor and relying on old technology. So we'd like to hear from you more what kind of paradigm shift needed for our business, our corporate to really enable our private sector to play its role in terms of creating jobs for Omani and also generating enough revenue for the stakeholder, as well as to also to give to the government budget. So this is the area where we'll be really happy to hear your input. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf. So you asked the right question that is front and central. The model we have has to change for sure. And I don't think it's one thing. I think there are a number of initiatives. One, we are very much part of the GCC and the Indian Ocean Rim countries. Number one, we have to lay our duty and customs excise structures so that we don't disadvantage ourselves and easily cause investors and visitors to choose other countries. We have to be an active part. If you just think of my country, the UK and the EU. I honestly believe we are at a significant disadvantage following Brexit compared to the life before Brexit, where we could just access any country in the EU. And the last thing you would think about were import duties or excise duties. Just think about that. Here, with our current alignment, misalignment, you would probably not look to place your regional hub or your multinational company in Oman. You would probably look at Dubai. This is one. Number two, in Oman, we have considerable expenditures, you're right, being spent by the government. They are the main driver that causes economic activity. And in the past, it's been through hardcore infrastructure projects. And it has put us in a unique position. But now, some of those revenues that we got from oil and gas must not just go on paying salaries in the government sector. There aren't the projects to spend. Those monies must be redirected to help people to participate in the private sector. And many enterprises in the government sector need to be looked at as to, we started this for these very good reasons, but are they still valid for the reasons for the future? And finally, we've got to market and promote Oman much better than any other country in the region promotes itself. You know, when I turn on CNN, nearly always I will see these wonderful images of Saudi Arabia and the changes they're doing. If you dig deeper, they haven't changed much at all. But I don't think we're marketing Oman well enough. And I think we need to be speaking with one voice. We need our very best ambassadors and their commercial teams in these collaborative countries that I've mentioned, promoting Oman. And here in Oman, and I have to give credit to His Excellency Qais Al Yusuf in Ministry of Commerce, and I also have to give credit to Ministry of Labour. But when you get to them and ask for help, they respond. But we need this to be more automatic, more process driven. And I'll give you an example. It's one of my big six. It's number 6, it's the least. But I became aware of an investor group from America that are looking at a mining opportunity here in Oman. Their CEO is 63 years old. But here in Oman, we have an age limit of 60. And I said, just if you need a number, put 100, but don't put 60 anymore. If you must have a number to satisfy your need, put 100 today. But some of us can still work if you're older than 60. And if you own a company and you know a CEO from somewhere in the world, and he happens to be 65, but you've trusted him for all the years, and he knows how to do something, we should be celebrating that person for coming here. And that's what I think our ministry will do, but we've got to get better at it. And we've got to promote Oman better. So these are some thoughts, Mr. Yusuf.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike, Mr. Yusuf. I would like to hear more comments. We have a comment in the chat from Mr. William. Mr. William, would you like to tell us about it, please? If you can just unmute your, yeah, thank you very much.
Apologies, I was slow on the unmute. As Mike said, we have to learn to do technology better. So I'm still on the learning curve. Thanks for your patience. The topic came on the chat and through Mike's discussion, what can the private sector do during this COVID times to support, for example, the distribution of the vaccine? My thought process is along the lines of Mike's comments, which is this is not a short-term issue. We need to distribute the vaccine this year. But I believe there will be, well, we say COVID-19. When I talk to my team, I talk about COVID-21, which is the new variants And it's not an official name or a medical name, but it's the way I talk about it with my team, because I think this is going to go on and on and on and continue to mutate. We may have COVID 22, 23, and 24 as well. So we heard today a bit about the sustainability measures that are happening in the food independence that's occurring in Oman, which is absolutely fabulous. And the results are very, very good, as we heard, with Mazoon Dairy specifically. So my thought had really gone to, we should also consider the same independence and same ability to support Oman's citizens and residents with a vaccine by having that production here. My background is in contract manufacturing for Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, however, not Moderna specifically. So what I've done is write to the CEOs of those companies as the CEO of National Detergents and said, let's go ahead and license our Omani public company here to go ahead and produce this vaccine locally for the residents here. So we would produce under license, what I'd say, pharmaceutical contract manufacturing. So that's one of the ideas that I had, and I've started to action that idea. And I think as leaders, we have to look long-term, not just to solve, you heard many ideas of how to solve the situation that occurred in the past 12 months. But you also heard that this is the new situation which isn't going away. So what can we do to look over the 1 to 5 year time frame, even 10, to put the assets in place to support the country? This also, of course, brings jobs. This would be a new training program. So this could, of course, predominantly be Omani jobs. And we may have to, as Mike mentioned, take 1 or 2 people from the global environment who have experience, maybe someone who's in a sense retired a little bit, but maybe in their 50s or 60s with extensive experience to help establish this and make this happen in Oman. Okay, yes, they may not be here for 50 years, of course. They may not be here for 20, they may not be here for 10. They may be here for 2 or 3 or 4. But they can get us rolling and get the economy happening and create a capability within the country that will keep the health and safety of the people well looked after and put us in a position for long-term prosperity. That's my thought process. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Excellent. Has to be supported. Super opportunity. In terms of distribution, how can the private sector help? Well, I think it should be up there in Ministry of Health, and they should be looking at how they reach out. I think we're lucky with the military that we have here and the ROP as well. We have plenty of resources to get distribution. If we can have production as well, I think it's a great idea. But I think there's a real need to enthuse and motivate the Omani population in general to the need they must get vaccinated. I think the only time that I was becoming aware that they said maybe we should get the vaccination is when there was a rumor going around that there might be a shortage of vaccination. And then everyone started running down to the health clinic. Well, somehow we have to get through, you must get vaccinated. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. William, Mr. Mike. Mr. Saleh Al-Shamfari, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for the very well presented Mike, and thank you, William, for the suggestion. In fact, I have been talking to the National Pharmaceuticals Industries Company, which is the largest here in Oman. And I've met the CEO of the company. I know the chairman, Dr. Walid, who is well-known physician and doctor across the Arab world, being the chairman of the Arab Physicians Union. He's currently been appointed by OIA, Oman Investment Authority, chair that company. The company is partially government owned and partially private sector. The success of that company to export to Europe, to export medicine to Europe, as well as to big countries in the region like Saudi Arabia, have led them to establish a factory, a processing factory in Jeddah now. I think soon it'll be operational, and that suggests that the ability of Oman to master the production of certain kinds of medicines and so on. In our group, we are now building one of the largest or the largest vaccine manufacturing plants for animals. So animal vaccine will be produced here in Oman, and there are a lot of takeaways that can be learned from both activities. So, in fact, we are also working with them, with the national pharmaceuticals companies, to learn from them, because today they have more than 40 pharmacists, pharmacologists, Omanis working with them, who have been taken from universities and been trained. But that has not been publicized. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not know what's happening in the sector. We have a large, a company called Felix, Pharmaceuticals in Salalah, which is owned by a Qatari group. And now they have been licensed because of the pandemic very, very fast. Today, they have been licensed for more than 100 medicine generic to be produced here in Oman, to be exported mostly to Africa, Yemen, and other countries. The question is that with the success that we had with the food business, it was an idea. I think along parallel with that, we need to focus more and more to the needs of future medicine. In this case, vaccines for humans. Since we are now started the vaccination project for the animals to help Oman with the 3.5 million heads of animal, as well as in the Arab world where we have more than 100 million heads of animals, and then East Africa you have more than 200 million heads of animals, and so on. So Oman will become a source of animal vaccines. We can do it that way, and with the success that we have in the past with the medicine production, I think it's time that we need to see what we call health security, hygiene security, medicine security. We treat it also similar to food security in the country. That awareness is very, very well said. Thank you, William, for the idea. Yeah. And I think if you're able to reach to agreements, I think Khalil and the people like Khamis can easily talk to OIA, His Excellency Abdul Salam Al-Murshidi, who will definitely support an idea to work closely with the private sector, with the government support, to start a production here in Oman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salah. Absolutely. And also we have valuable collaborative partners in region and close to us, such as our friends from India, etc. So then something like that should happen. But how to make it? Bill, you seem to be leading, so keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Ready to help.
Thank you very much. I would like to welcome His Excellency Mono Mahawar, the Ambassador of India, on board. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll take the next comment from His Excellency Khamis Al-Kiyumi. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mike. It was very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And we have so many points to take back home, as Simon always say. I do agree with most of the comment, advice, and your experience in the group, which I think is very, very useful and interesting. I have few more comments. One of them is, I think, and many people also advise that is the case. Post-Corona will never be the same before Corona. Post-2020, the world have changed in many, many aspects. And as you stated earlier, that we had also in this Majlis sessions on education and health, everything is going online in big way. People, if they enjoy getting expertise and knowledge online, compared to traveling, conducting seminars, cost, expose themselves to risk, I think they will not easily go back to that. I think, as you said also, that digital learning is very important. Yes, I agree. It's very, very important. And what we need for the future also, maybe if you have time, sometime to talk more about what are the opportunities post-corona. However, innovation and agility, it will be a symptoms of coming decade. Those people whom they have more innovators and fast to move and fast to change their business models, they will continue. Additional to that, professionals with multi-skills will be demanded in the coming decade. And then we'll see cross-world and cross-countries expertise working online. So those are some of symptoms of the future business post-corona. Maybe we need to see what are the outcome opportunities from these changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and your observations are well made, and I think it's an imperative need for private sector, but also government to be studying. You don't need, we have the 2040 vision, we know the direction we want to go in, but in the next 2 years, what do we have to do here? And what should be some of the outcomes starting from 18 months, 2 years from now, that we can build upon for the future? It takes a little bit of time. Last year has shown there is a tomorrow. Last year has shown we can adapt. Last year has shown Oman is better placed than many to take advantage, but we have to see the future. We have plenty of reports. It's quite interesting, watching some of the younger members of our team and how they just have transitioned quite normally and are leading their lives. And it is refreshing to see that we have this type of youth in this country, and they are the future. And we must be, it's no more someone like me prescribing, because I can only facilitate and help and accelerate. But it's the young people who can really take us forward. And some of them are pretty impressive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike, Your Excellency Khamis. I will listen to again Mr. Matt, and then following by Mr. Warith Al-Kharousi and Mr. Anil Nahar. Thank you very much, Mr. Matt. You are muted. Kindly just unmute yourself, please.
Okay, perfect example of technology failure there from an older man. Your Excellencies, thank you very much indeed for this opportunity. It's a great honor to be here. And Mike, thank you very much for, once again, an excellent presentation. I agree entirely with everything that is said. It's heartwarming to see the attitude and the focus. My great concern, which is based on, at the moment, a reflection on the United Kingdom, is that we are blending management and leadership. Oman has dynamic leadership, but leadership is unique. It is the vision, the direction, and managers manage it. If we blend this, then the managers become stifled. And in UK, we have flatline management and little leadership at the moment, to be perfectly honest. And my fear is that if we don't see the leadership allowed to focus on exactly what it needs to do and have a marvelous team behind it, we end up with a bureaucratic mess. Now, I have huge confidence in Oman. I've seen leadership there. And there's a wonderful expression which I use, which is, Ana Amir wa anta Amir wa min hisuk al-imara. If we're all leaders, then nothing happens. But if we're all managers, there is nothing to do. And it's simply to say, do we have the ability to recognize and respect that significant difference that allows us dynamic acceleration for future resilience and, of course, immediate recovery? Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And very significant point, whether it's in an enterprise like a business or government, but we are still young and we still need polishing up. We still need help, but you're right. We're pretty good at the leadership and we need to maybe step up a bit on the management side, that when there are issues, they are resolved swiftly and carefully. I'm not sure we do enough measuring the outcome of something that's been introduced, or having researched enough beforehand before introducing the new regulation. But your point is well made. Oman, as a country, but as businesses, we need the right balance and the clear remits and objectives. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warith.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm very honored to be part of this Majlis, and I'd like to thank His Excellency Al Khonji and Mike, and of course the team who are here on a weekly basis. I think there is a lot of sharing and knowledge, concepts, quite a number of initiatives, as we've heard, even for instance today, that the William Hunt has actually come up with some initiatives. What I'm saying is that basically, how can we take these concepts, initiatives, sharing of knowledge, and there's been a very powerful group actually over the last year. How can we embed this kind of thinking and thought leadership into the 2040 strategy, which is already ongoing and it's a stimulus? But how can we seamlessly embed it, work along? And since this is kind of a private sector forum, literally it's a private sector, how can we connect up to the decision makers of the Oman? And I think Mike clearly said there are two main groups. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry and Investment sector are very proactive. Kaisal Yusuf, His Excellency, and of course the Ministry of Labor as well. So how can we connect up this kind of independent private sector forum with some of these government decision makers to enable us to understand that the direction they're setting is actually being embedded into the 2040 and vice versa. So I think there's a lot of people here, which I know who are huge decision makers and private sector leaders. These we can actually work together, and I think this is the whole thing. How can we step up as a private sector to the government and say, here, guys, we are the private sector. We've been privileged to have all these sort of knowledge and expertise, etc. How can we contribute to the 2040 strategy? That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Warith. You know, just listening to you is it's an echo from all of us, and it's the opportunity that we have as a community, as a group, and we're fortunate in some of the people who are in this group, but there is considerable resource here. But end of the day, I guess, when I point, 4 of the fingers start with me, so I have to do something, so you have to do something. And then together we have to do something. And then, inshallah, government will be part of us too. But honestly, my outcome from the end of this year has been me having to say this, going to, for example, His Excellency, Mr. Khalil, and saying, sir, this is what I think. He puts in his thoughts and shape, and together we come up with a better decision. Somehow we have to have some of what you and I would be used to this today and tomorrow. We're used to working together. We're used from a private sector having issues and sorting them out. maybe we have to find out how we do this collaboratively, with trust, with confidence, with our government colleagues. Honestly, in the last year, we have some engagement with them, but not to a point where someone like me would be saying, if there was an issue, and it's of my big six, and I won't say what it is, but number 4, it would be to phone up the respective body. Please come and have a kawa with me and tell me why you're not sorting this out, because it's affecting me and what we're trying to do, and somehow get alignment. But you know, six issues are not a lot for a country like us and people like us to sort. Most of what's happening here is great.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Warren.
Thank you so much. Mr. Anil, please go ahead.
Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Khalil, for organizing, and Mike for an excellent overview of all what happened in the last 1 year. Thanks for that. I'm just using this forum to pass message that, look, the ground realities are quite different now, and the businesses are crumbling, especially the SMEs, and there is a lot to be done on an urgent basis. Because you know, the whole COVID lockdowns and all that has really crushing the businesses. The cost of COVID test in Oman are extremely high, and some of them are absolutely unnecessary actually compared to all the neighboring countries. I mean, when we come from Oman to Dubai, you know, Dubai don't do any COVID test, but from Dubai to Oman, when you come, it's a Dubai you do, then Oman you do again, and it's just too much of the cost actually. So I'm using this forum to communicate the message. This COVID rules are really crushing the economy like anything. And if we do not start accepting what is a ground reality, it could be too late. So that's the message which is for many of my friends, that take up these issues with the necessary authorities to change the rule as fast as possible. Just using this as a forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu. And as usual, straight to the point. The country, I mean, we have to, if I may suggest, come to a firm decision. Do we need to be vaccinated or not? If we need to be vaccinated, if this is what the leadership agrees, it must be rolled out fast. And I had somewhere, but the percentage in the USA, for example, is now something like plus 30% or 40% in the last 100 days. I think we're still at about 4%. So I don't know how we do it, but if we have to be vaccinated, it's get the vaccination done.
I really agree, but more than that, the businesses are completely collapsing. That's what my suggestion is that because of the rules, you know, I mean, you close down the gym, actually when more people become more unhealthy, it is the chances of that more COVID cases will happen. So the gyms and all that should not be closed down. Let people remain healthy. I mean, there are so many other examples I can throw out, which is what the case is there. The whole purpose is the senior Omani, all of you are senior, can take up the issues with the ministries and all that thing, that the rule should be more in line with what the businesses needs.
I mean, no doubt, Anu, this is about our policymakers, our experts, whether they're private sector or from government, and for what we've learned happening in other economies, but navigating a way that is suitable for us here.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Where it's urgent.
Thank you very much. Mr. Abdul Wahab, would you like to add a comment, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Good lecture or a good presentation. I just want to add to what Anil was just saying in terms of how much liaisoning or coordinations taking really place between the private sector and the government, and in terms of assessment. A year already passed by. If there could have been if there are lessons learned, what are these lessons learned, and how we can go forward? And I think this forum we're in, as Anil just said, is probably a good reference to the importance of government entities, decision makers, looking at what private sector is saying and thinking of what private sector is saying and debating it also. And maybe I think there will be a lot of lessons learned from that, rather than just, private sector is, and I'm talking at the same levels, they are having a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, and you only hear it in the social media. And I don't see any forum addressing all these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Wahab. You're right. I hope one of the outputs of this session is that others will be able to take some of the points, and it's meant to be helpful at sharing opportunities as well as ideas of how we work together and thrive. So thank you for that point.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Mahawar, welcome on board to Majlis Al Khonji. Please, would you like to raise a question or add a comment? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Excellency Khonji, and thank you, Mike, for inviting me. I'm sorry I joined a bit late, so I missed half of your presentation, but I have been listening with great interest all the comments and responses there too. And let me first say that this is really very useful for us as the embassy. Second, there is a great degree of interest in India among Indian businesses, about the way economy is being restructured, reform measures are being taken, and it has generated a lot of interest, positive interest. People are following these developments very closely. Some companies have already taken decisions and made announcements, but some more are waiting for greater clarity to emerge, particularly on labor reform side. So I'm sure that, as you mentioned, Oman being an Indian Ocean country, and the fact that bulk of the economic growth in future will take place in India and in China, in Asia in general, there is definitely greater opportunity for our countries to collaborate, and I definitely see greater collaboration between Indian and Omani companies in all key sectors. But it is also important to ensure that the business links are preserved. Essentially, what has allowed us to develop these linkages is the people-to-people connect. And that people-to-people connect also needs to be preserved as Oman undergoes an economic transformation. So this is something which we'll have to keep in mind, and that will definitely lead to positive results. On the COVID side, because that's of course the big question, I must say we were able to work very closely with various authorities in Oman and during the COVID period to deal with both healthcare and economic challenges. And I am sure Mr. Saleh Al-Shamfari will also confirm, even on supplies front, we worked very closly. New links have been established, direct shipping lines have been established in this COVID period. So there are a lot of positive stories out there. We also were able to support Oman's effort towards vaccination by gifting vaccines. We couldn't supply more primarily because of the legal issue, because on commercial terms, Serum Institute is not allowed to supply to the Gulf. It requires special permission from AstraZeneca, which is not there as of now. Our second vaccine is yet to be authorized, so that could not be supplied. But I do accept this point which was made, that India and Oman, Oman can work with foreign partners to develop its own in-house capability to produce vaccines. Oman has been sourcing vaccines from India for a long time, and I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities there. Again, I'm quite positive about the future of economic partnership. I'm sure the challenges we are facing these days will be addressed. And really, my best wishes to all of you. We remain available as embassy. If you have any ideas involving India or Indian companies, do reach out to us. We'll be there to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you for making the time to be here. Oman, I believe, has had something like more than a 5,000-year relationship with India. And it's something I know people cherish, and it certainly recognized the substantial relationships, friendships, and other links between the two countries. And your invitation to wish to collaborate and work together with Oman, I'm sure people will be queuing up outside your embassy to do things with you and your people there. You have a considerable talent pool, and together, I think both countries can benefit enormously. So thank you, sir, for being here today.
Thank you. And I will leave my coordinates also on the chat group so that any of you wish to contact me directly are most welcome to do so.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Mike. Our next comment or question from Mr. Alain, following by His Excellency Khamis. Thank you, Mr. Alain. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Khalil. Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. Going back to the vision of 2040, I think the group of age that will execute this vision are the teenagers today. And we have been always talking about how the pandemic affected the business. But we need to study and we need to be ready how the pandemic affected the teenagers today with all the disturbance in the social life they are facing, the education pattern, and how to bring them ready to the vision of 2040. And not only in Oman, but everywhere. Again, thank you very much. And this was my little comment for today.
Thank you, Elaine, and very nice to see you. And your point is, as always, very well made. The young people, their dreams, their aspirations, yes, we need them in the team. And I hope that out of this presentation, there will always be some issues that need tuning or alignment. But if we're able to allow the young people to flourish and participate and take the economy forward, we will certainly be in a better place. Thank you for that comment.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Khamis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rehan. Well, I think I would like just to comment on what have been said so far. I think the priority number one is health and people life. So this leads us to agree with the most of measures have been taken internationally and locally. We have seen a dynamic committee which respond to the actual number of people affected. And based on that, they close and open or reduce and so on. So this is, I think it should be very much appreciated. Health and people life is more important. Then this takes us to another level of challenge. Another level of challenge, not only in Oman, but the entire world is facing this challenge. And we have seen also a lot of cooperation and collaboration between nations in producing vaccine. For example, Oxford with India, AstraZeneca Pfizer, with America. We have seen so many cooperation because for the first time, human beings have faced such kind of challenge, which needed everybody to be involved. This opened for us another dimension of thinking. The dimension of thinking, we should not insist to what we have learned in the last 50 years, how to do our business, how to educate our kids, how to train them, how to direct them to the line of income and business and personal independence. I think COVID came to bring the world to more independency in terms of professional skills and opportunities. And this will be open in equal basis for the entire people cross-border. As Mike have stated clearly that telecommunication, digital are booming because of this opening. And this opening will see a professional in Oman maybe is working with far away with Hong Kong people a few hours and next to England a few hours and so on. So life is changing. Post 2020 is a new era which we need to understand it, study it, prepare ourselves carefully, and introduce more professional and more skills whom they can contribute positively to their life, to their country, Oman, to the nation, and to the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I quite agree, and you're absolutely positioned as a visionary and in leadership as to what we need to be doing to take advantage of this technological change that's impacted through the virus. It could be something else in the future. But thank you for those wise words.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hana Amin, would you like to add any comment or raise a question?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike, for a very interesting presentation. For the education, yes, what you put that it is that the digital and the Wi-Fi should be like the really road service, which is very good. But also we need to also concentrate on the research, collaboration with international university or researchers to develop the vaccine. Really, although this is all the challenges we face with COVID-19, but there is something we could say positive things, which is that the collaboration between international research, and we see that in the production of the vaccine. Also now there's a new way of life, like working from home. This is, you need to put more rules or develop more digital things to cope with this. Learning, distant learning as well. This is, we'll need to work on it. So it is really, there is a lot of negative things, but there is a corner where there is something positive that we, as educators, really, we should encourage our this is the young generation to work on this digital world and improve the way of teaching, learning, research, all these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. You're quite right. I missed that. I should have had that point about research and collaborating with the higher educational establishments here. You're right. I missed that. That's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to listen from the medical sector. Dr. Lamia Ahmed, would you like to give a comment or ask any question? Dr. Lamia, are you with us? Thank you very much. Mr. Mahmoud. Mr. Mahmoud.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I'm late. I was with you, but I was so engrossed thinking about what Mr. Mike and what Dr. Hana was saying, and I went off in that track. Thanks to Majlis Al Khonji and for arranging all these amazing sessions that keep us all alerted and updated. Mr. Mike, that was a very nice presentation and I was really looking forward to it. I agree with all that you've said and what the other members have said. When I listen to these sessions, I try to see how I can apply it in the hospital where I'm at, and how we can, each one of us in our own area, move on forward. Right now, we are, for example, not able to do major surgeries, which are elective. The emergencies are done. So we're trying to think of ways of doing it as an outpatient with a shorter time and more convenience to the patients. With regards to the vaccines, inshallah, there'll be more coming and the ministries with it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lamia. And may I say, and I think I'd like to say from all of us, how much we appreciate the work from the Ministry of Health and the essential care workers in this country who are looking after so many of us. So you're a courageous, great group of people. Thank you, Dr. Lamia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lamia. Mr. Mahmoud, and then following by Mr. Nick. Thank you very much.
أنا ما طلبت أي مداخلة. إذا في محمود ثاني ما أشوفه هنا في المشاركين.
شكرا جزيلا يعطيك العافية. Thank you. Mr. Nick.
Yes, good afternoon. Mike, I've been nodding the entire time. It's quite a painful process having to do that. Let's get my video on, sorry. I agree with so much of what has been said. And where to start? New computer. But what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit. You mentioned leadership, as did Matt. One of the major issues that leaders are going to have to face is to ensure that long-term strategy objectives are not subordinated to short-term needs. Now, we are talking at the moment about coming out of COVID with vaccinations and so on. I've even seen articles talking about how the economy is improving. Well, if you look at oil prices and do the sums, that's the reason for it. And oil prices are going to have a rocky ride forever. So there is a danger that that we relax. And it's so important. In particular, I think we're talking about digitalization. The digitalization of GCC economies has really not played to the strengths of certain family firms, especially those that are primarily in asset-heavy sectors, such as real estate, construction, retail, and so on. And these companies are going to need to change because they will find that when combination of bureaucracy and wasta come under pressure with the country relaxing its in order to attract FII, the playing field for regional and international competitors is going to change, and companies that have had major success here, big names, are going to have difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. You make the right point. We mustn't subordinate long-term objectives, 2040 vision, for short-term gains. Sure, there are some urgent needs, and they need to be identified and implemented. But above all of this at the moment, you know, a graph I saw a few days ago that showed a timeline and the first wave, and then it came down thanks to control by lockdown and so on. Then it came up again, a second wave, and it came down. I think given our low rate of vaccinations and people are still not adapting social and cultural behaviors, that as we move into Ramadan and Eid, we must be, in my view only, we must be super careful we don't see an explosion of infections in the coming 4 weeks to 8 weeks. We should be really concerned. And so I'm with you. We have our long range, but there are some actions now. Fortunately, we're a pretty good bunch, but we must put the foot on the throttle about getting the message out. Keep your distance, wear your mask, and don't risk your family or others. Maybe you're young and strong, but it can be transmitted to someone who's not. So your point's well made, absolutely. And decisions have to be measured, engaged for the long-term national interest. But there are actions to be made now so that we look after ourselves and we prosper. And I hope those higher oil revenues are being used wisely to pay off debt, for example. But we have to face real issues and structure the economy properly. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mahmoud Sakhil Belushi.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for excellent presentation, and also I think very important topic to be addressed this time after 1 year of COVID. I would like to just highlight, I wrote one article, it was Arabic and being translated now last year, beginning of pandemic, and where I highlighted what is to be done by the government and companies during this unprecedented and uncertainty conditions. And lately I updated that to compare what has been done actually on the ground. So I would like to mention, which mentioned by one person I think here, about what the actual real ground in terms of businesses, what actually happening. So here I think we are missing a little bit transparency on the actual data on what actually happening on the ground in terms of businesses, difficulties, challenges, I think are not being addressed properly, because this will help same business and others to really try to improve and mitigate, which we share all, the difficulties and challenges. So here I think we need more, little bit improvement. Second is, I mentioned in that article, maybe the matrix which everybody knows, the important and urgent and important and not urgent matters. I think government when issuing during the pandemic some important and urgent regulations and laws should not forget the long-term impact of this. I think some of the regulation which came up, unfortunately, we're not looking for the long-term, but looking for the short-term only impact. And this will have great, I think, negative impact on the businesses and the growth in Oman. As you mentioned, Oman is excellent in location, geography, in investor climate, everything. But with these regulations, you are putting some, I think, setbacks on future investment in Oman and growth. We should not be looking at replacing, but on expanding the economy. So when this regulation come and just look at the replacing and without expanding the businesses and expanding the economy, I think we'll get this impact really felt very badly in the coming years. So this is one of the areas I think we are missing, and we are not also fast on positive action being taken. Many things are being delayed, many things are taking longer than it should be, especially during the pandemic. It should be very, very fast and very positive impact on the businesses. Otherwise, I think the impact and negative will be really very bad hurt by the economy as a whole. So I want your view on this aspect, which is taking the action now, but we should be looking also to the future. And I think the point which you mentioned in the beginning slides, 3 points are very, very important. One is that when taking care of the health, when taking action, taking care of the health, whether companies or government or country. And the other one is controlling the cost, okay? But also not forgetting generating the revenue you need, plus looking for opportunities. I think those points which you mentioned are very, very critical for the country and companies. Here, I think we were missing, and we're just thinking on some fees, some taxes, and forgetting the actual revenue we generate, and forgetting the actual potential businesses we need, opportunities. The only positive, try to find one positive action taken, I think, was reducing government expenditures on non-critical areas, which was in the beginning, which we call it like a balanced budget or tawazun al-mali. I think those were a little bit the only positive action taken by the government, because you want to reduce where you don't generate income, which is, I mean, in business, we call it a waste. It is a waste. But other regulation and aspects, unfortunately, I don't see any positive long-term impact on the economy. Appreciate your view on that, Mr. Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mahmoud, and very eloquently and clearly put across. Number one, I would have you on my team tomorrow, because we think the same way. And you're right, we have to look at clear long-term objectives. We have to have people who together can achieve things. What's come through from the notes I've taken from your comments, we need a champion. We need someone who is every single day saying, don't forget this and do that, and you must do this. And by the way, that was great, that was achieved, and so on. Biden in the US is doing it all the time at the moment. We've had this number of vaccinations in 75 days. This we're increasing now. It's quite exciting. It's quite compelling. Look at on the TVs, they're showing people having the vaccinations, not one. When I seem to watch MSNBC in the morning, there's about 10. It takes away the fear. It shows people are doing it. It shows you must get it done. So someone like you, Mr. Mahmoud, are absolutely vital that we have a champion, that person is known and communicating and giving feedback, but under them is a team that are sorting things. One person can't do everything, but with a team in operations, you go and talk and sort that issue out. You go and sort that and bring back what's the problem. And quite quickly, things will start moving. It's not just the Americans that can make things happen, we can. And we are doing it, but sometimes maybe we're a bit guilty of working in our silos, in our own camp, and not across. And we probably need to be doing that. There are experts in one area, but they need to listen to others, and listening to you. Honestly, I think the big market to speak to right now is the Omani people. Get vaccinated, number one. Be safe in your behaviors. But the other market, someone else can do, go and target the enterprises that fit our 2040 strategic vision, whether it's mining, whether it's fisheries, whether it's something else, and bring them here. And the third one, go and attract visitors. Come and meet us. We're not bad. We're actually great people to meet here in Oman. That's what people seem to leave, and they seem to like us. Let's market that. We are really, I've been here 30 years. I'm very happy my life has been in Oman 30 years. Thank you. Well done, Mr. Mahmoud.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoud. We'll take Mr. Nasser as a jari, and then we'll end up with the last question, maybe, or comment from Mr. Matt. Thank you, Mr. Nasser.
Thank you very much, and thanks to His Excellency Khalil and everyone, and thanks for Mike for the excellent presentation. Obviously, we talked quite a lot of risk, and we tend to focus a lot on the external risks and the strategic one. But as a CEO, if we can share with us some of the internal or operational risk within the group, particularly related to processes and related to finance. So I would be delighted if we can just share with us how was your experience on this last, I would say, 1 year, particularly on mitigating risks within the group. Thank you.
So I'm having to write quickly because you have asked a really hard question. So what you're right to ask it, because there are risks, and what jumps out at me first was in our priorities as a team back in March, April 2020, and for 4 months was to keep the cash coming in, because we just had to keep the cash and slow the cash going out. One of the challenges, the risks we had, was to move from cash, physical cash, to digital payment. And we still haven't gone far. It's pretty hard to let go of a post-dated check in Oman. A PDC in our sector, when someone gives you a PDC, legally it means so much. And there is, I think I'm saying the right thing. There isn't a clear replacement electronically of the PDC. It's very important. So that is a big issue, because we want to limit the amount of cash movement because of virus transmission and so on. But letting go of PDC, I wouldn't like to go and see Mr. Khalil and say we have no PDCs anymore. So this is one. A second is in processes. A lot of processes are changing and were changing before coronavirus came and are now accelerated. So manual processes, going to the municipality to get things renewed, we're already starting to change as electronic solutions came in. That's accelerated. Now, our PROs need new skills. Otherwise, they sit waiting for work. So this was a second one, a risk of talent becoming redundant because of new processes. And in our employment contracts, we're still in a situation where someone who doesn't get it can turn around and say, Sidi, it's not in my contract. I am this, and this is what I do. And it takes quite a lot of time to cause that change of attitude and position. And it's not for someone like me who is driven because of the virus and needing to succeed and perform, that person becomes not interesting to have on the team anymore. Because you haven't got time to spend days and days trying to attract and educate. To me, something, you ask, I'm wearing shirt and tie and jacket today because of you, you're my audience. Tomorrow, if I have to go and do something and drive up to a CEO, what is the role of a CEO? It's pretty broad. And most of our team need not open-ended contracts, but broader, newer contracts to allow flexibility and adaptability and relevance to new work, new processes. So you make a good point, but I haven't got anything else that I'm thinking of at the moment, but it needs to be thought about. You make a very good point, Mr. Nasser.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matt, if you would like just to share your opinion or your comment between the COVID-19 management between UK and Oman, we'll end up with that comment if you would like. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. Was that for me?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. I do apologise. My thoughts about the UK and the management thing, I think, was covered extremely well by Mike and everybody else. The other one that I think was important and is related in terms of leadership is the COVID situation has shown that all agencies, both in public and private sectors, must share responsibilities over threats, risks, opportunities in dimensions they've not previously covered, as well as having even greater responsibilities in the areas that they have traditionally been concerned with. My question was really, is the speed of communication between public and private sectors swift enough? And reflecting on the UK, it is not. There is a big gap between what the government wishes to do and how it communicates that to the people who actually do it. And this mismatch is causing a delay. I think that has been largely covered, and I apologize if it's a repeat, but I think it was something that I felt was important. But again, Mike, I think, and many other people have covered it very, very well indeed, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Matt. Over to you, Rehan.
Thank you very much. We have reached to the end of the session, and Mr. Mike, would you like to summarize before we close? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rehan. So if I can briefly, I would like to thank you, Mr. Khalil, and all of you, Your Excellencies, Mr. Mahawa, Mr. Kamis, and all of you who are here for allowing me and allowing us to talk about this subject. Right at the top of the list, every person who gets sick in this country or anything worse, it's the reason we should be addressing this, because we don't want that. And everyone, and that's all of us who cares about this great country and wants to see it thrive, thank you for allowing us to talk about this subject. What is interesting 1 year on is we are still here. We are working differently, and we have key relationships. There are challenges, and we're not sure absolutely of all the information that dictates what we should do. I believe we should all be vaccinated, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the right thing. I think we are in the third wave, about to hit the third wave in Oman of infection and maybe new variants, but I don't know if I'm saying the right thing or if I should be saying it, tell you the truth. What I do know is at the moment, we have good leadership from our Sultan and our government. And if there's any way any of us can participate to help them, you just have to pick up the phone and tell us what to do, because all of us here would. This country is worth it, and these people are worth it. The young people are great. And looking around here, I don't think there's anyone under 30 years of age. So we have a responsibility. Don't have to worry about me, but we do have to worry about our younger people because they care about us. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you again, Mr. Khalil. Thank you, Reham, and thank you to all of you. And I guess the message we all finish with these days, please be safe. Ramadan Kareem, don't do this or this, but do this.
Thank you, Mike, for the.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant,
You,
absolutely
Mike,
brilliant.
for the good presentation. And thank God that you have taken your first injection like 3 weeks ago. I was after you for some time. It was difficult to convince people in the beginning to take vaccination. And today, people are after the vaccination and they are not getting it. Thank you for the Indian ambassador to be here, and thank you for your contribution of AstraZeneca. But as you know, we have about 700 to 800,000 Indian population, and when I went to all the health centers, the government health center, I can see all citizens are there and they are vaccinated free of charge. And of course, now it's not matter of cost; it's matter of resources. So we need all the help from all our friends to get this vaccination. As Mike said, it will be difficult for countries who are not vaccinated. It will be just ignored, from the world map for some time, and that will cost so much money on the economy. So we need everyone's help in this. There's concern about we talk, but where all this goes. I assure you, Mike and Riham will work on a minutes for this session. It's a very important session. And as we say, we use also our telephones. We use all kinds of communication, Twitter, WhatsApp, to take all these concerns to the right people. Thank you all. Thank you, Salah. Thank you, Matt from UK, Norma from Jordan. David Bush, you were sitting in Haramil, I think. So everyone is protected, inshallah, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was excellent meeting.
Dr. Hannah.
Shukran.